Good morning, Marlene. I received that text. We're going to touch on what you sent over to me. I had plans to do that already.
All
Amber,
right.
what's going on this morning? See you out there. Calvin Maddox, Paula Watts, Karen Mills, Montina. How you doing? Montina, Paula.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Had a
Good
great night
morning.
in DC. Good morning. Right. All right, we are coming in. Reginald Smith. All right, Reginald, I think I owe you a text or an introduction.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Reminder, I see you coming out. Yes. Text me after this or sometime today to make sure I get that introduction. Yes. All right. All right, y'all. We are about underway. It is 8:32. We generally start at 8:32. Give me another 30 seconds to get my notes together. All right. We got a new survey out, everyone. New survey checking the temperature. That's going to be going in the chat. That is a 3-question survey. It'll take you every bit of 1 minute to complete that survey. So please complete that survey. But welcome this morning to Advancing Black Businesses Public Policy Talks, brought to you on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Did miss last week, but I understand we had an interesting conversation centered around public policy, of course. I know a lot of you talked about or were concerned. I heard a lot of concerns about you want to talk about Project 2025. We're going to touch on Project 2025 and Agenda 47. We're going to touch on some things before that centered around a Black agenda. But again, survey is in the chat. Thank you so much, Raquel, for working behind the scenes. Really appreciate you back there. But the new survey is there, just a 3-question survey. Please take that survey as we go through this morning. As you know, the ABC Atlanta Black Chambers received the award of Chamber of the Year from the United States Black Chambers, the USBC. Thank you for all the congrats. I think Martina, Paula, I'm looking around. I know I'm going to miss somebody, but we were all there. Melvin Coleman, the president and CEO of the ABC, has done a wonderful job. Melvin, keep up the great work with your leadership. The executive committee of the Atlanta Black Chambers, you are doing a great job. We meet on Mondays. We got a lot going on behind the scenes, chamber members. Definitely appreciate your support. You're the reason why we're here as members of this organization. So thank you. In addition to the ABC on the mic, Ed Gordon was the host of the event, the gala for the USBC this past Friday. Mentioned Advancing Black Businesses also. Yes, we were in there with the ABC. We are the public policy advocacy organization that supports its ABC members in helping educate you on how the best ways of engaging in this public policy, this political process. And here we are at the national level. I know a lot is going on locally, and hit the news yesterday about advanced classes centered around African American studies. Please just stay tuned to that. There's going to be more coming from that. We're definitely monitoring that also. That is a part of public policy. That is a part of educating you and educating our youth out there, K through 12, particularly in the high school level. But just to frame this conversation, you are business owners out there. You have seen this slide before. For those who were at one of the earlier public policy talks, it's from the U.S. Census data. You see the Black numbers of firms based on the U.S. Census numbers. This was just a couple of years ago. 201 billion in sales. Our average sales for Black businesses is 62,045. For white businesses, there are 25 million firms. Their average sales is 567,369. That is a variance of 505,000 323. That is what I call the racial business revenue gap. Very, very large, very, very large. Also, going to the next slide. Come on, slide. Come on, slide. Where's my slide? All right, let's go here. I got to show you these slides, y'all. We're framing the conversation. And let me go here. Let me stop. I got to have some technical problems here. Let me go. Let's see. Let me go to this slide right here. It's going to have to be a little smaller so I can get the slide in. Come on in. Now, this is on the screen. I'm not able to put it in presentation mode because it's sticking, but this is the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. This is where the racial wealth gap is measured right here. This is a barometer. This is the 2019 quarter one. 2019 quarter one, white wealth is measured at 98 trillion. Black wealth is measured at almost $6 trillion. $6 trillion. So that just let that number stick. We're going to go to the most recent. The most recent is right here. This is quarter four in 2023. This information is actually going in the chat also. You'll have a link to go and measure this from when they started measuring this barometer, which is centered around the racial wealth gap. In 2023, because you hear a lot of conversation in and around from the candidates around the racial wealth gap and closing the racial wealth gap. So if you look at the total in the white community, $141 trillion. In the Black community, you're looking at 6.7 trillion. So from 2019 to 2023, the latest numbers, white wealth grew by 44%. 44%. Black wealth grew by 12%. So 44% growth versus 12% growth. All right. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me that the racial wealth gap is growing. The racial wealth gap is not closing. This is from the Federal Reserve. The racial wealth gap is growing, everyone. It is not getting smaller. Our wealth is growing. It has grown 12%. Okay. I wanted to frame the conversation centered around that because when you are 14% of the population and your wealth in America is measured somewhere around that just over 4%, there's a deficit in Black America. There's a true deficit in Black America. So when you have a deficit like that, when you have a racial wealth gap, and we talked about that before in one of the prior shows, the racial wealth gap stems from systemic oppression. It stems from our participation with public policy historically. That's what created the racial wealth gap. I'm not going to go into that basically too much, but that created the racial wealth gap. So here we are. I talked about 2 weeks ago that there's a reset going on. There's really a true reset, especially at the top of the ticket. You heard the president's message last night, or hopefully you heard the president's message. If you didn't, please go and listen to his message. He talked a lot about what's going to happen over the next 6 months during his administration. He also talked at the latter part of that speech of who he supports, and that is the Vice President Kamala Harris. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of excitement centered around the presumptive now nominee for the Democratic Party, VP Kamala Harris, and I definitely understand why we have that excitement. I have participated in it. I was on the Black Men's Call led by Roland Martin and several others. It was a great conversation. A lot of that was centered around raising funds, getting out to vote, raising funds and getting out to vote. The women had a great call. I think you raised more than the Black men, raised about 1.5 or 1.6 million. Black men raised somewhere around 1.3 million on Sunday. There's been several other calls. There was the NAACP call last night. centered around educating you on the process. You heard Derek Johnson, the president and CEO, talk about, how we move forward. And the NAACP is an organization that's centered around educating you. This nonpartisan organization. So good conversation last night by the NAACP. Now, I want, if you think about what's going on, if you think about just a few moments ago, I talked about the racial wealth gap. I talked about where we stand as a Black business in America when it comes to revenue. There is a certain kind of way that you are or you should be advocating for yourself as a group. You should be somewhat selfish. You heard a lot of conversation. I talked about it 2 weeks ago about they were talking, the conversation was centered around saving our democracy. I talked about that, saving our democracy, and also at the same time, we can do two things at one time. We can save our democracy and we can save the Black community. So I'm pressuring you as Black business owners, as members of the Atlanta Black Chambers, to start looking at agendas. Start looking at agendas. I understand about the excitement. I understand about the excitement of the presumptive nominee. I definitely understand they're supporting. But we have to start looking at the policy. We have to start measuring all the policies that we hear. Where does that measure to those numbers I just showed you? In America, America is measured on the GDP. It's measured on money. The money that's coming into your pockets, money that you make, money that your businesses make, money that Black consumers can bring to your doorsteps as Black business owners. Right now, we are at a deficit. So when I look at policy, I am measuring, the number one thing I am measuring is how is that going to affect my pockets? How is that going to affect the pockets of the chamber members of the ABC? How is that going to affect the pockets of Black business owners and definitely ultimately Black consumers? Is that policy going to affect that? If that policy is not going to affect that, what do? You actually come up with agendas. Well, we just left DC. Melvin and I and the crew just came back from DC. There's several Black agendas that are out there. We're going to talk about that. There is one called the USBC Black Print. USBC Black Print. Give me just a moment. I am going to bring that up. Raquel is going to put that in the chat. Let me find that because this is important to talk about. Let's see. Come on out of their USBC Black Print. Where are you? Right there. All right, USBC Black Print 2023-2024. The new one will be coming out when we go up to DC on September the 12th at the USBC's Policy Breakfast. Will be there. And a quick pause, we're going to the Capitol September 12th through the 15th. This is going to be an exciting CBC conference and fly in for the Atlanta Black Chambers and Advancing Black Business. So you need to go. I think that's probably already been put in the chat, but we need to go and check out what is going on. But the Black Print 2023-2024, that's going to go in the chat. Please look over this. This is a great plan specific to you as a Black business owner. A letter from our president and CEO of the USBC, Ron Busby, going in, and I know you probably can't see it, but that's why we put it in the chat. There's a Black business report. There's a principles behind the 2023 Black business report, and that is to bolster the American economy through increased Black ownership, allow Black businesses to thrive in the modern global economy, foster a level playing field for Black business owners, responsibility to support a vibrant workplace and workforce development, and prepare for the next generation of Black entrepreneurs. So great report. Not able to really go into this because I want to show a few other reports out there in Black agendas, but please review that. That's a Black Print, or that is the Black Print for Black businesses at the national level. And as Atlanta Black Chambers and ABC, ABB, we actually support that Black Print. Also, going to the next one, we have the Congressional Black Caucus. Again, the event is September the 11th through the 15th. The CBC event will be there September the 12th. September the 12th through the 15th. And with our fly-in, I'm going to show the CBC's website. That'll be going in the chat. Also, the chat is going to be heavy with links. It's going to be heavy with links. Let's see. I got to go back and bring that in. And I'm going somewhere, y'all. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to Project 2025. Also, we're going to talk about it. That's what you wanted to talk about. So we are going to talk about Project 2025. But I just wanted to present this to you. Come on out, CBC. I'm actually trying to show the CBC's website, and there it is. On the CBC's website, they have the CBC agenda for the 118th Congress. For the 118th Congress, this is the latest information on the website. It talks about democracy and civic participation, education, environmental justice, future work, healthcare, housing, and public safety. Those are the top topics for the Congressional Black Caucus's agenda for the 118th Congress. All right. So going on, also the Congressional Black Caucus has supported the Black Economic Alliance. I talked briefly about the Black Economic Alliance and actually put in the chat about 3 weeks ago their plan that actually came out with a partnership, and there's a great article. I don't have that article to actually share, but it talked about the partnership and the actual economic tour with Kamala Harris, our VP, was here in Atlanta, and several of the cities that we attended was centered around the Black Economic Alliance, the CBC's push for that Black agenda. That's actually in the chat. Let me see if I can bring that up, y'all. So I'm throwing a lot of information to you because I want you to understand more about the policy and the agendas that are going to be coming forth to you by way of the presumptive candidate. And also on the other side, we got to watch the other side. On the Republican side, we definitely got to monitor that, because there is a chance for either or to get in office. I know where we sit as a community, but here we are. So the Black Economic Alliance, I don't know if I can get that one up or not. Let's see, do I have the Black Economic Alliance information up? Let's go here. I have to take my glasses off to see a little bit, guys. And I want to definitely hear from you. It's 8:48, so I want to hear from you in just a moment as I spat all of this information out, all of this information. So let me go to here. This is a long report, everyone. The Black Economic Alliance is an extensive report that's going in the chat. It's a policy agenda to advance Black work, wages, and wealth. It covers affordable housing. It covers entrepreneurship, jobs, and workforce development, tax reform, and definitely voting rights. Long, extensive plan has an introduction to the policy agenda, and it goes into those various areas. So I wanted to introduce this to you because we need to focus our attention moving forward on the policy, on the agendas. I just showed you earlier where we stand as a Black business owner. I showed you earlier where we stand as a community and where the racial wealth gap stems from. The racial wealth gap is widening. That's what it shows for Q4 at the 2023 Federal Reserve for Consumer Finances, that it is widening. So that means that the policies that are set forth now are not the appropriate policies, no matter who is in office. It's not the appropriate policies to start the process of closing that racial wealth gap. So we have to pay attention to that. We have to demand for more. We're going to look at some of those demands. I actually have a couple more policy agendas. One is a very, very robust Black agenda, which again includes the reparations framework centered around that. That is coming from the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, and on the website, and that'll go into the chat. It talks about what is a Black agenda. The Black agenda, the American Descendants of Slavery, ADOS Advocacy Foundation believes in building a fair and more equitable America. Our efforts reflect a concern for the commitment to advocating for policies that will eliminate the divides faced by all Black Americans. So this is a very robust Black agenda that's centered around the framework of reparations. I stress on that word reparations because I just showed you that survey of consumer finances, and that is the best way, period, by the economists out there. And that stratification economists talk about the best ways to close the racial wealth gap, and that is it right there. A multi-generational reparations program. This Black agenda is centered around agriculture, Black business, cannabis, climate change, criminal justice, education, environmental racism, housing, immigration, unemployment, labor. So it's a very robust. If you click on the Black business part of the agenda, it actually explains, it talks about the data. It pulls out data from several sources, and it pulls together a Black agenda for Black businesses. I definitely urge you to check that out. It is a great Black agenda. That's the framework is centered around reparations. So I just showed you several plans centered around that actually center you, from the USBC to the CBC to Black Economic Alliance to the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. That's what, as Black business owners, we should start paying attention to. It should be about the policy. We have a lot of excitement. We had some great excitement about the presumptive nominee coming out. It is time to get to work, Black business owners of the ABC. It is time to go to work. It is time to study what's going on. It's time to monitor what's going on. It's time for us to talk about it. And from a local standpoint, I know Montina is going to keep us on that local standpoint. We're going to have her sometime very, very soon to talk about that in the coming public policy talks. But we have to be more concerned about the agenda, the policies that are going to be set forth, and less about everything else. Right? We have just to talk about where we've been as a community. I know in 2008 and 2012, we voted in record numbers, y'all. We were out there in support at that national level, which affected down ballot also. You saw the Senate change. You saw some houses actually flip in the state legislative houses. You saw a lot of things actually change in the community. But I just showed you the effects of that did not affect those numbers from the Survey of Consumer Finances. The racial wealth gap continues to grow. And I'm making a point is that we have to start looking more at the agenda than anything. Black business owners were sitting at $62,000 in average revenue. When you advocate for yourself, you advocate based on agendas, you advocate based on the policies that set forth from those candidates. And I want us to start paying more attention to the policy agendas, start putting forth those, reading over those agendas that I talked about, just some touch with, pick one of them to look at. Pick the USBCs, the ADOS, the BEAs, the CBC. Let's look at those agendas. Looking at my notes, going back, Project 2025 and Agenda 47. Project 2025 and Agenda 47. I have read the Department of Commerce's section of Project 2025. We've heard a lot in and around that Project 2025. You heard the former President Trump distances himself from it. That, you know, that comes from the Heritage Foundation. There's a lot of chatter in and around Project 2025. There's Agenda 47. Agenda 47, and that's actually, I put that in the chat also. That Agenda 47 is the official plan of the nominee from the Republican side, former President Trump. We are paying a lot of attention, that I do understand on that. I'm not going to touch on that a lot because I really want to pull you as a Black business owner away from that attention that's going on with Project 2025 and Agenda 47. We know where we vote, everyone. Our attention has to be on what the Democratic Party is going to do for the Black community, not so much paying attention. We definitely need to know what's going on the other side, but we have been committed for the last several presidential elections heavily on the Democratic side. So our attention has to go majority to that Democratic side and what they're going to do for you and your community. All right. So I know there's a lot of understanding, excuse me, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns again about Project 2025, about Agenda 47, but our attention needs to shift. Again, it has to shift back. I just showed you the numbers. I just showed you where the racial wealth gap comes from. I just showed you the average revenue for Black business owners, $62,000. I know what can happen. We've heard it. We've been, the boogeyman has been out there. They're scaring us to the polls. We've been scared to the polls for the last several presidential elections, but this election has to be about you. It has to be about saving democracy also, but you have to put yourselves first. You have to vote for your own interests. You have to push for your interests. You have to talk to those candidates. You have to voice your opinion as a Black business owner when it comes to the policies that are going to be set forth by this presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. What are going to be those policies? Are those policies going to continue to be some of the same of the current administration? If they are, I can tell you that what I talked about, and I actually didn't talk about this. I talked about the contracting numbers, and I touched on this before. The contracting numbers for small businesses at the federal level are at a record level, almost 29% contracts going to small businesses. That has drastically increased, and that's what the Biden-Harris administration set out to do. But I did show you several weeks ago that our percentage of that has decreased to 1.5%. It was started in 2021, around that, 2020, somewhere around that just above 1.6%. It went down to 1.5%. So that tells me as a business owner, as president of Advancing Black Businesses, is that those policies may not be working. All right. So what I'm telling you is, let's look at the policies that are going to be set forth. Let's push for more policies. Let's start having discussion groups. And we're about to start that. The time is 8:58. We're going to go over about 10 minutes, everyone, because I want to hear from you. I know there was a lot of chatter last week when Raquel led us last week while we were in DC. But I want to open up the airways. Open up the airways. Raise your hand if you want to make a comment. Especially, give me some pushback. Give me some pushback.
Markee, do you want to discuss the magazine article?
Yes, I'm going to close with that article, Raquel. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to turn to that page. Anybody have any conversation? Montina, what's going on? Go ahead, Montina, unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, I had to get it. Hey, y'all, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for keeping us informed, keeping it succinct. For Kel, thank you for putting the links in the chat. Just a few things over on my side. We have to advocate. A lot of what I'm seeing out online, I'm part of the NAACP, I'm part of the National Coalition of Negro Women. I'm in a lot of different circles, and it's just like, Kamala is just, she's Black, or she's. I have a son-in-law that's half Filipino, so I kind of just really understand there are two sides to this coin. We need to make sure that we are standing up, those of us in the space with the stats, and advocating and say, hey, we get that. But like Markee is saying, what's the policy? What's the agenda? Just ask the questions, educate other people. The next thing is just to listen and observe. Don't be argumentative and contentious online. And I wanted to add here that a lot of times we're either or. We're Republican, we're Democratic. I'm in the middle, I'm independent, but I show up to everything. So there are Republican, in our communities, real quick, there are Republican meetings, there are Democratic meetings. Y'all get to these meetings, just sit there. I go in places like, hey, how you doing? And I just listen so I can hear both sides. You all know I'm running for public office, so I want to hear both sides. Last thing I'm gonna leave with is, Markee, if it's okay, I'd love to put a link in and encourage you all to become poll workers. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, y'all, at all. So I've signed up, it's like $200, you get paid for the day, but just understanding how this process goes, how it flows throughout the day. We always see all these older people, like my grandma, 86-year-old age, talking about, I'm a poll worker. And then also, of course, I advocate for local politics. If it's okay, Markee, I'd like to put the link in every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. I host a call. Some of us need to be on the other side, meaning some of you all, your businesses aren't scalable or your growth is stunted. And some of us, I've been in business 10 years. I'm going to the other side in public office. And that's part of the Millionaire Moves in Dr. William Picard's book. He talks about this. Some of us need to be in positions to help other people. I just sent something to a friend today about $10 million, but 500 million allocated in the freight program. I have a girlfriend in the freight industry. So again, some of us need to go into politics so we can pull other people just to the forefront because we're behind the veil. So again, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Montina. Appreciate that comment. All right, Sylvester, moving fast, y'all. It's 9:01. Sylvester Ford.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I know last week when you were absent, we had a great conversation where I know I reiterated some of the points that you and I have talked about in the past about the low revenues that the African-American community has. And I want to say we need to take these policies, take a look at them and see where the money is coming to, as far as what's important to them, to America, as far as on the national scene, as far as it looks like the presumptive nominee, Vice President Harris, what's her plans, what's the other guy's plans, and just say, is my business conducive to being able to take advantage of whatever plans are coming down from these agendas and be able to grow my revenue through whatever means it is, but are we in the right industries also? So taking a look at exactly, because they tell you where the money's going to be at in those agendas, and I think we also need to look at it from that perspective.
All right.
Because certain industries, it just ain't gonna be no increase in money coming, and then others, it's gonna be a lot of money coming in. And I think that's one other thing, as far as to look at that public policy from those standpoints. Where are they going to be spending the money?
Okay. Thanks a lot, Sylvester. All right, we're going to be going to Cheryl Hayden. You're up next, Hayden. You're up next. Go ahead, Cheryl. What's going on? Board member of ABB.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, all. I incredible time and representation in DC, all of us collectively.
Hey, you're breaking up, Cheryl.
And what I wanted to offer.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
What I wanted to offer is to take 11 minutes and go back and watch President Biden's speech from last night on YouTube or whatever your favorite platform is. He outlines what he considers the most significant accomplishments to date, and take a look and pivot in there to see where do we fit, or where does your business fit as a part of what he's already noted as the accomplishments, and see if we're getting enough of that so that we can start to synergize a priority for our own individual businesses or collectively where we can collaborate and start to get a greater take of that. Because that transportation bill that was passed, it is the most significant bill that has been passed economically since the New Deal. And it's still robust enough for us to get a piece, or our pieces, if not more than our pieces. But I definitely believe it's going to require some other kind of collaborations with businesses to get those pieces beyond. So I offer, just take a look at the speech from last night again to see what hits you again in the light of day on running our businesses and things of that nature strategically. And then let's come back and see where we can synergize to take some action together to go get some of this.
All right. Thanks a lot, Cheryl. Really appreciate the comments. All right, we're going to Hayden. Kimberly, you're up next. Go ahead, Hayden.
Hey, Markee. I can keep it very brief. I was one of the people that went to the White House with us during our trip to DC. And I wanted to say that when we asked the questions about the executive orders, specifically 14091 and 13985, we got to keep up with them as well, because those specifically had attachments in it talking about the data. So I think that would be great as something that we can follow up on, as well as, and I could put this in the chat too, uh, getting lawyers that we have on our team, as well as consultants that know a lot about, and I'm saying this for other communities too, but the official code of Georgia annotated, our like statutes and the stuff that we use in order to enforce specific contracts. And they talk about industry specific things as well as like professional services, a lot of stuff across the board. Every time that they push forth some type of policy, you're going to see the change in the OCGA. And that's going to be very important for us. So I want to keep up with that as well, because there's things that we can use with that, or we can base our like research around some of the stuff that they have or adjust with that in order to help with a lot of the things we have going on. But keep up the great work. And
All right. Thanks a lot, Hayden.
no problem.
Appreciate it. All right, Kimberly King, what's going on? Unmute yourself.
I am sorry, I'm on a couple of conference calls now, but let me just mention this. Are you guys aware that the GLBC, Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, will host their version of the Congressional Black Caucus meeting the very first week in August? Are you in the loop on that?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Well, I'll defer to you to mention it, but they have some good events and speakers coming up, and you know, it's all politics are local. I want to make sure that we support the folks in the state legislature. That's probably one of the budgets we have more immediate access to. So
All right,
to attend those events.
And Kimberly, I failed to put that in my notes. Do you have that information? Because I was actually talking to a state rep about that a couple of days ago. Do you have that information to put in the chat?
Yeah, sure. I can put it in the chat. Okay.
Please do. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. The Georgia Legislative Black Caucus is definitely a good friend of ABB and definitely Atlanta Black Chambers. We definitely work closely with them. I know one of their project directors very, very well. So we got some great state legislative officials across this state. We even had the chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus on Tuesday Talks several months ago. So we definitely have a good relationship with them, and I should be in attendance. I've been looking at the dates on that, and that should be going into the chat in just a few moments. All right, let's see. I don't think we have anything else. I know I've seen some comments in the chat about getting out to vote, and we definitely have to get out to vote. I think we're wrapping up for a record number of votes. We may be getting close, I don't know, to the 08 level. There's a lot of excitement around that, but I want to pull you back also while we have time. We have to work on. We have to look at these policies that are put forth. We have to push for those policies. Please look over those links of those policies from those various organizations. Those are some good ideas, some better than others. Look over those. We have to look at policies that are going to definitely affect the bottom line, affect our pockets. It's going to some things that are going to close that racial wealth gap. Also, I want to close because we're going to be right on time. It's 9:09. I wrote an article thanks to NBiz magazine publisher Monique LaRue, Michelle Glover, our chair of our women's league, actually referred me over to Monique to write an article in 2020. Thanks to Kimberly Starks and helping me write that. But I actually thought I was going to put that on the screen, but that link is in the chat. And the article was centered around why Black business matters. Why Black business matters. Check that article out. A lot of that still resonates today. I want to read a part of that, one of the latter part sections, and it reads as, for those positioned, owning real estate is one path to create wealth. Becoming a business owner is another to improve our collective economic stature. But for the masses of our community, we must demand for transformational public policy change, then ultimately exercising our rights, our voting rights at the polls for the local, the state, and the national elections this year. Those candidates that we cast our votes in the upcoming election and future elections should prove their support of an agenda that requires transformational public policy change. requires transformational public policy change or a major public policy intervention that builds Black American wealth and closes the racial wealth gap. Thank you, everyone. It is 9:11. We're 1 minute over 9:11. Thank you for joining Advancing Black Businesses Public Policy Talks. I know there's a lot out there to talk about. We only have a short time, so that's why I'm going to throw some things at you to make you pay attention and just look at the things that are going on in public policy. Thank you so much for joining us. I will see y'all next week, and we're going to start slowing it down some also. We're going to have days that I throw a lot of information at you, and then we're going to start slowing it down so we can talk about the issues and actually get some things done. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend.
All right.
And I'll
Have a
see
good
y'all
one.
next week. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Crystal Spellman, I see you out there. Akita. There's Calva Maddox.